Hi. Let's give it a couple minutes. Okay. Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Kate. I'm an admissions representative at School Year Abroad, or SYA, and I'm also an alumna of the SYA class, France class of 2019. And I'm going to be hosting tonight's panel. If you have any questions at any point of the presentation, or if someone says anything that sparks an interest, feel free to drop your question or any comments in the chat. And we have some time at the end where we can go through anything that you guys might be questioning. All right, now let's have our alumni come back and we'll have everyone introduce themselves a little bit. If everyone wants to do a quick introduction, just tell us your name and pronouns, which country and city you studied in with SYA, where you're from, which high school you went to, and what you're currently up to. Why don't we go ahead and get started with Anne?
Hola, soy Anne y soy de Carolina del Sur y estudié en Spain para todo el año y ahora estoy trabajando con una empresa de los diseños de los interiores. Hello, my name is Anne. I am from South Carolina. I studied in Spain for the entire year and I'm currently working at an interior design company in my free time.
Great, thank you. Danny, do you want to jump in?
Oui, salut, je m'appelle Dani. J'étais une élève de l'école de français à Rennes pendant l'année 2022. And hi, I'm Danny, she, her. I went to SYA France in 2022. I graduated from St. Mary's Hall in 2023, and I am currently in Temple University in Philadelphia studying dance and French.
Great. Now, Reagan?
Ciao a tutti, mi chiamo Regan, io sono di Pennsylvania, ho studiato in Italia e adesso sto in liceo a Mercersburg e sto studiando. Hello everyone, my name is Regan, my pronouns are he, him. I studied in Italy last year and I'm still in high school right now. This is my senior year and I study in Mercersburg, Pennsylvania.
Great. All right, now we have a quick presentation, and then we'll invite our alumni back afterwards to do some questions. All right. Goals and living with a host family. If you can picture that, and it excites you, it's time to apply to School Year Abroad for either a year or a semester. With campuses in France, Spain, and Italy, SYA will give you the opportunity to discover a new city through the eyes of a local, gain independence, and make language come to life. SYA is here to turn your learning journey into one that is focused less on textbooks and photos and more on real-life experiences and adventures at one of our 3 European campuses. At SYA, you'll live with a personally matched host family, fully immerse yourself in the local culture, and feel truly at home living abroad. You'll be a part of a small student body composed of sophomores, juniors, and seniors from high schools across the United States, just like yours. You will go to school at campuses just for SYA students and take your 6 classes all together. Students must have completed 2 years of Spanish or French to apply to those campuses, while students applying to Italy do not need to know Italian. For those of you who may feel intimidated by the language element of our program, we want to assure you that a wide variety of language learners excel at SYA due to our fully immersive program. Just to clarify, you do not need to feel confident speaking the target language to attend SYA. The goal is to learn the language through immersion. As a part of our experiential curriculum, fieldwork days will challenge you to think creatively and critically while fulfilling graduation requirements here at SYA. Whether it's conducting interviews with locals for your political science class, visiting a world-renowned museum for art history, or harvesting grapes for environmental science, you'll be challenged to take your education into your own hands and see what you study in the classroom for yourself. At SYA, you will immerse yourself in a new culture and gain independence as you embark on school-organized trips throughout your host country, from places like Naples, Italy, to Normandy, France, and Andalusia, Spain. SYA students explore all corners of the host country. You will take ownership of your learning as you design your final capstone project on a subject that's important to you. Some recent capstone projects include researching fashion and creating an outfit by hand in Viterbo, Italy, studying environmental science sustainability in Zaragoza, Spain, and investigating local farming practices in Rennes, France. With the assistance of our extracurricular coordinator, you will also be given many chances to engage with the local community through artistic, musical, athletic, and service-oriented opportunities. Each campus also facilitates exchanges with local high schools to help you establish local friends and connections. At each step of your voyage abroad, you'll have the support of American peers and faculty members who will keep you on track in math and English. Your local teachers will push you outside of your comfort zones, and as they teach in the target language and guide you on fieldwork and weekend travels. Colleges also love SYA. At SYA, our college liaisons help juniors begin the college process and seniors complete their applications. SYA campuses are also SAT testing sites. More importantly, SYA students find their voices overseas. The independence, self-awareness, and confidence you'll gain living abroad will help you stand out to the colleges that best meet your interests. You'll have a distinctive story to tell, and you'll demonstrate the grit and ambition it takes to live in a different country and learn a new language. Skills college looks for when recruiting students. Just look at the schools most frequently attended by SYA students in the past 5 years. At SYA, we believe that financial need should not discourage any student from this amazing experience. Almost half of SYA students receive need-based financial aid or merit-based scholarships. We offer over 10 scholarships and utilize over $2 million of financial aid to ensure SYA can be a reality for most students. For a small program, that makes a huge difference. SYA is a risk worth taking. You'll be able to immerse yourself in a new language and culture, all alongside of supportive teachers, new family members, and friends. You can switch up your regular high school routine and do something different. We hope you take this opportunity to see the language come to life in Rennes, France, Viterbo, Italy, and Zaragoza, Spain. Are you ready? Are you already picturing yourself at SYA? Feel free to scan the QR code to sign up for our email list and follow us on social media, where our campus reporters create weekly content, and we also host other virtual information sessions featuring other alumni, and there's just a lot of information that you can find up here, but we'll go ahead and start talking with some of the alums right now. All right, welcome back, everyone. So we have a short planned Q&A, and then we'll get into some of the questions that we might get live. So Anne, do you want to go ahead and start us off by talking about your favorite class?
Hello, yeah, I can. So my favorite class was theater, and this was a pretty small group of students. There were probably 7 or 8 of us, and we did 2 major plays, one in each semester. And this is where I really saw my Spanish flourish. It just helped me so much to grow, and I learned so many like random words. I built so many connections with new friends, and it helped me a lot with my accent and everything. And I just am so glad I took the class, and I thought it was really different from anything that I was expecting. Like it was just really great, and I'm glad I took it.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing. And Reagan, what about an extracurricular activity?
So I was actually going to talk about my theater program, but since Anne kind of hit on that, I'll talk about a law program that I did in Italy, where we worked with a local lawyer who actually has an international firm. And we just sort of examined different cases between Italy and the United States. And we had like a lot of debates. There was always fun snacks there. And it was just really cool because he would talk to us practicing his English, and we would talk to him practicing our Italian, but we'd all sort of combine and put our heads together for these law cases. And it was really cool to form a connection.
Yeah, that's great. And it's another just great to exemplify this opportunity at SYA. There's a lot of moments and opportunities for people to kind of branch out into the local community and find new people to talk to, find new extracurriculars they want to explore. And it's really encouraged at SYA. So if you hear something that intrigues you, that's always a possibility to look into in these cities. But also if there's something you're curious about, there's a lot of room to kind of find something new and find your niche as well. So Danny, do you want to talk about your favorite food?
My favorite food, well, in Rennes or the region of Brittany, that's kind of the origin of crepes, and there's a savory version which is called a galette, And I remember my host family, they would always make galettes for lunch every Saturday. And regular, which was dancing at the conservatory. So I'd be coming home from like a 3-hour dance class. I would get there, I'm like hungry and tired, and I would just have a galette like ready, freshly made, like on my plate, and it was always so good. And even now, like I always search whenever I see a crepe place, I always search for galettes, and I don't see any. Hopefully, I'll find one soon.
Yeah, as an alum of SYA France as well, I find myself missing it constantly in the US. It's just not quite the same. And did you want to maybe share about a favorite trip that you did while you were at SYA?
Yes. I'd say one of my favorite trips was actually a day trip that we did from our field work. It was to La Gacilly, which is still in the region of Brittany. And it's because there was a photography festival going on. So they had a bunch of photos from photographers from around the world, and they were placed like all around like the little village. So you would just like walk around and find this like all these cool art, and it was such a pretty day. And I remember we went to a little boulangerie, and the guy that worked there like realized that we were Americans like visiting and living abroad, and gave us a quinaman, which is like it's like a pastry dessert that's really popular in Brittany, and he like gave it to us on the house to like try, and it was just such a pretty day, and like that's one of my favorite places that I've ever gone.
Yeah, it sounds like such a cool memory, and what a cool place too. Um, so if you guys want to start talking, maybe like give us a bit of a story time from your abroad. Reagan, if you want to maybe talk and tell us a story about your host family or a favorite memory with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I could talk a lot about my host family. I was really lucky with my host family in that we just sort of bonded immediately, which is really funny because that none of them spoke English, and I didn't really speak any Italian when I got there, and I think that made our connection really special as well. I had one host mom who we would just like sit on the couch, and every night I'd plan to do my homework and we'd end up just talking all night, and she was fantastic. And her host brothers who treated me like their own brother, and it was just perfect. Like I genuinely felt like I was part of their family. And also we all sort of looked like a family as well. I had glasses, all of them had glasses, and everyone would point that out. I think there's not really one memory that stands out, but rather it's just like all of the little things add up. Every night my brother would sneak into my room and I'd give him a piece of candy, and we just have this nice like ritual, and we just chat for a little bit. And every night, like when I'd say goodnight to my host mom, we'd end up chatting for a little bit, or I'd help set up the table. And it's just like the little things that add up that I really miss right now, and just how homey everything felt. So
Yeah, no, the host families are such a core part of SYA of the SYA program, and it's really what we hear so much from alumni too. Like it makes the experience so unique and so special, developing these relationships and really feeling at home with a family there. And especially as you're going through something so new and so exciting, and everything's different, it can be really grounding to have these people who basically tell you like, "I'm here for you. I'll be here for you. Let's figure this out together." So it's just a really special part of SYA, and we really love that part about our program. So Danny, do you want to maybe tell us a story about your favorite fieldwork activity? What'd you do? What was that like?
I have to think because I already mentioned one of the field works. I'd say honestly the first field work we ever did, which was the first day, and this is like an SYA France tradition. I don't know if they do this in the other countries, but they basically they take away your phones, and they give you a map of Rennes, and they give you your corrigo, which is like your card that you use for the bus and the metro for the whole year. and like a questionnaire, and you're with like groups of people that like you don't really know because it's the first day, and you have to go around the city and like it's like a scavenger hunt essentially, or you have to like find questions or answer questions like there was one where like bring back a brochure from the opera house, or like what's name 2 movies that are in the cinemas right now, or anything like that. And it was kind of cool because we were all like confused and like we were all in the same space of like being like, oh, I don't know what's going on, like I'm in a place that I don't know, with a language that I'm not familiar with people that I don't know yet. And honestly, like the people that I was with in that first day were people that like I became friends with and I like still talk to sometimes during the day, like to this day. So it was just really cool, and like it's kind of, and it was kind of like a way that SYA kind of like gave us that it's okay to take risks, and sometimes you need to do that in order to like really explore and like grow.
Yeah, great. Thanks for sharing. And you bring up a really great point about kind of community at SYA too, which it's so daunting right before you're like, oh, what if I don't know anyone? And all of these questions can kind of flood your head with all these what ifs. But it's really important to remember that everyone's going in kind of in the same, they're from the same place, in the sense that like no one really knows what they're doing or how to do it. And that can really create such a unique experience and community at SYA, because everyone bonds really quickly over this shared discomfort. You know, you're kind of throwing yourself into the deep end, but you learn how to swim because you have so many people there to help you and support you throughout it, whether peers or the faculty. It's just a really supportive environment. So Reagan, do you want to jump in and maybe explain what the capstone project is and what you did for it?
Yeah, absolutely. The capstone project, and at least like what I did for capstone, was honestly like one of my favorite parts of SYA, or my SYA experience. But the capstone project is sort of like an end of year culminating project that you're using all the skills that you've been honing in all throughout the year for this project in the spring. And you can do it on anything. There's not really any guidelines. You're really just like following your curiosity. I know a lot of people who did more research based, some people who made ceramics or did something that had a final product. Really just focused on using what's around you, having a place-based project, and also talking to people and getting new experiences. But other than that, it's pretty much like free reign. You can kind of go the direction you want to. And I had a lot of fun with that. Although at first I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I'd always had an interest in the medieval aspect of Viterbo, because Viterbo is a medieval city. It was the papal residence in the 13th century. So you get this sort of medieval city and a lot of medieval traditions along with that. So during the Santa Rosa Festival, which is sort of a quintessential part of the SYA Italy experience in September, I saw a medieval band playing, and I knew that I wanted to for sure like be a part of that medieval band. And I didn't think of how I could make that into my capstone project until we were finally brainstorming ideas, and everything just sort of lined up. I started talking to people, and I eventually, the first time I talked to the head of the medieval band, he was like, absolutely. I went to one practice, and then I was performing in ceremonies with them. I held a banner in front of the band. I got to dress up and I performed in 2 ceremonies actually, and more or less just did some interviews with people about the medieval nature of Viterbo. But that was my capstone project, and I'm very passionate about it. And I'm still in touch with the medieval band director. He's been texting me since I've been back in the States and checking in on me. And yeah, that was my capstone experience.
Yeah, that's such a cool project and story. I feel like there's such a breadth in projects that you can do. Like there's no cookie cutter mold, like you have to do one thing or the other. And it's so interesting to hear like across different campuses, across different years, what everyone finds their niche in their city and their people. And you can really find a community both in the city and find something that really brings that you're passionate about and bring that to life. I think capsters are a really great part of SYA and something that I had a great time with too. So Anne, do you want to maybe talk about what a typical day of school looks like and the SYA community?
Yeah, so everybody lives in different parts of the city. So everyone will start their day by either the bus, walking, or the tram. I would walk to the tram and then take it a few stops into the city center, which is where the SYA Spain campus is, which is actually really great because you're so close to everything. If you want to go get like a bite to eat during the descanso, which is like a break in the middle of the day, then you can do that really easily. And everyone takes about 5 or 6 classes, and you get to pick 2 extracurriculars, which are like the theater class and, there's art classes, sciences, there's a lot of options. And, if you ever need any like, I needed a lot of extra help with my Spanish, and, I would go in the mornings and get help from my teachers, which was amazing, or during breaks, like the descanso, like I mentioned. And, yeah, it was just a really great time to do that, and then school ended about I think 3:30 each day. And then on Fridays, it ends a little bit earlier, which is great. So we could have some more time to like, explore the city and get a jump on the weekend.
Yeah, and do you want to maybe talk a bit more about what made you to apply to SYA?
Yeah, of course. So my dad actually went to SYA France in I think 82. So that's how I knew it existed. Then he had just sort of like mentioned it to my brothers, and I don't know, I guess they weren't as interested in it as I am. But whenever he told me about it, I just was like immediately jumped on it. In ninth grade, I started thinking about like what teachers to ask to write my recommendations, and I didn't apply until 10th grade, but because I went as a junior last year. But I was just so excited as soon as he told me about it, and I thought it would just be the coolest thing ever, and it really was. I'm so glad I did it.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. Reagan, do you want to maybe talk about what encouraged you to apply and say yes to going to SYA?
Yeah, of course. Similar to Anne, it's sort of been on my mind for a while. I knew since like elementary school that I for sure wanted to study abroad. My brother always had friends who had came from different countries in high school. He had one came from Spain and one from China and one from Sweden, and I just always loved it, and I knew I wanted to do that. And when it came around to like 10th grade and exploring my options, my school is actually a partner school with SYA. So that was sort of my only route. And I would have for sure chosen Italy, but also it helped that it's the only one without a language requirement. And I had actually studied Chinese for 2 years before going to Italy. So I did not know Italian or really any Romance language that would help me out there. Um, so yeah, that's sort of my story, but I always knew that I wanted to go abroad. I wanted to experience something. It was actually my first time leaving the United States to study, and I went for the whole year. So that was something that was really cool, and I was like dead set on.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for sharing. All right, so we're going to go ahead and jump into some Q&A. If anyone has any more comments, feel free to drop that into the chat. But let's just go ahead and start. Are kids in the same grade? Is it all 10th grade? All right. Reagan, do you want to maybe take a stab at this? So kids are not in the same grade. It's definitely not all 10th grade. Most of our students are juniors, but we do also offer options for sophomores and seniors. Now, the language requirement for sophomores, they definitely still have to have that second year language for both the France and Spain campuses. And, sometimes it's a bit of a different application process where you're not going to be meeting with alumni interviewers. It'll be someone from the admissions office, just because we want to make sure that everyone's prepared for such an experience, and will be, a level playing field with everyone who's arriving. And for seniors, it's less common because a lot of people like to finish off their senior year, or if they have sports commitments and whatnot. But we definitely do have seniors, and we do have the resources for them, to make sure that like the college application process and everything goes smoothly. But Reagan, do you want to maybe talk about the experience of like having the different grades, maybe what the ratio looked like in your class, and just how they integrated together? Did it feel separated and whatnot?
Yeah. At Italy, we had one sophomore for the whole year, and then one sophomore that came in the spring semester, and that was it. Otherwise, there were, I want to say, like 3, 4, 5-ish seniors. So it was primarily juniors. It never felt separate at any time because we're all sort of in the same class and we all felt as one unit. So I would oftentimes like forget that we're all in different grades. But I had friends who were seniors, friends who were sophomores, so felt like pretty much. And I don't think our experience was much different because grade we were at. Other than the seniors having to do some college work in the, but even then, it wasn't that different. So.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. And yeah, all of our SYA sites are testing sites for the SAT as well. So there really aren't any issues with applying at a different grade. Who are the host families and how are they matched to my child? So the host families, it's a pairing process. We want to make sure that both the host family and the student is going to be a good match because ideally this is someone they're going to stay with for the entire year. And we want to make sure that you're going to get along well. And also that it's someone that it is going to fit your preferences. So, usually you fill out a form a couple months beforehand, which is kind of just like, what are you looking for in a family? And what kind of preferences do you have? And you can pretty much include anything you want to add in there. I remember for mine, I think I said, like, if they have a cat, that'd be nice because I have a cat and that would be comforting. And I ended up with a host family that had the same name as my cat, which was kind of crazy. So, like, you talk about anything because you want to see your personality, and then the SYA will take that and try and figure out if there's any host families that'll kind of match that very well. And so it's pretty much a mutual thing of trying to figure out who's going to fit together. Anna, do you want to maybe talk about what it was like, maybe some of the things that you put down and how that match went with your host family?
Yeah, of course. So I have 4 older brothers, and I put that down on my list, and I said like I'm totally fine having a bigger family. And I honestly wasn't very picky on my list at all. I don't think I put any like things that I didn't want. I didn't really say anything because I was just really open to any family they would give me. But I got such an amazing family, truly. My host sister and I still talk every single day. She came and stayed with me over the summer for 2 weeks, and that was great. And I got a really great family. We match each other really well. And I had an older brother, a younger brother, and then a younger sister. But she's really close to my age, and we would do things together all the time. And it was really great.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for sharing. What sports can students play? So it depends a bit on what you can find in your host city. So things that are pretty generic are going to be a lot easier to find. I've heard of students doing soccer pretty easily. Volleyball's a common one. I'm trying to think of what else, but there's a lot of options if it's, something that is played abroad. Some more niche sports might be a bit more difficult to find. But we encourage all of the students just to kind of go out and see if anything strikes your fancy, if anything sounds interesting to you. We want everyone to do extracurriculars and to try something. And especially like if you have a sports commitment, it might be worthwhile to make sure that that's something that is played in the city that you're interested in, because I know not all of these sports are. But by and large, you can find a community of people. And if not, you can also try and see if other fellow SYA students want to do it with you and just create a little club team to go practice or play together. If it's something like basketball, which should also be offered in most of the cities as well. So it depends on the sport, but for the most part, you should be able to find it in your host city or be able to find some sort of outlet to continue to stay active and exercise in those ways. Did any of you guys play any sports you might want to talk about? Or do you know anyone in your communities who played, or in your years that played sports?
There was there were a lot of kids in my school who played soccer and basketball, and there was a tournament. It was called the Copa Colegial, and it was like all the high schools in Zaragoza, and they all played basketball with each other, and like you could just sort of enter and stuff. And so SYA entered as like one of the high schools, and that was really fun. But then there were also several other opportunities for people to go out and play with primarily like Spanish team, so a big mix of like some Spanish kids from like this high school, that high school. So it'd be like a a lot of variation. You'd meet a lot of people, and there were several sports like soccer, basketball. There was even lacrosse. There was ballet, and there was lots of dance options. I did Zumba for a little bit with my friends, which was really fun.
Yeah, so there are a lot of options. You can always find something and, other extracurriculars as well, whether that's playing an instrument, cooking, yoga, pretty much anything that you can think of. I know people did art at the local conservatory and did art classes. Anything you can think of that you could find will support you and try and figure out a way to do pretty much. We want to encourage people to work with the communities that they're in. Will the language be a problem for students who can only speak English? So if you only speak English, Italy will be the only campus that is applicable for you, unless you're just, as long as you have 2 years of language experience or equivalent. Now, I think we can test out of that as long as you can demonstrate if it's a language that you speak at home instead of taking coursework in it. We just need about a second year level going into the program. Now, that does not at all correlate to a confidence in speaking the language. You learn a lot through just immersing yourself. And a lot of people come in feeling very uncomfortable speaking the language. But we do have that language requirement for France and Spain, sorry. For the Italy campus, there is no language background. So if you do speak only English, that will be the only campus that you can apply to. And Reagan, if you want to maybe talk about the different levels that people came in with and what that experience was, kind of learning Italian starting from ground zero.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did some Italian Duolingo over the I'm gonna be honest, and it did not help very much. So I got there, I didn't speak Italian. My host family didn't really speak English. It was this sort of awkward period of 2 weeks where we did have to use some Google Translate for some simple words. But I think it's really, along with the immersion, like you really do just figure it out. And also with school, you're able to see your friends who all speak English, and your teachers are able to help you in that way. But there were a lot of people who came in at different levels, because some people came because they have Italian heritage and maybe their family speaks a little bit of Italian. I want to get better at it. Some people had studied Italian in school, and some people didn't know any Italian at all. So with the first few weeks of actual classes, how it worked for our school was that we did a stamp test that sort of measured our language fluency where we are right now. And we got into different classes that we would then take for Italian, experiential Italian, English, and whatnot. And that was sort of based on where at our level of Italian. In some classes just moved faster than others. And that's how sort of all learners were able to get challenged and make the progress that they needed to make. So that's what it sort of looked like for levels of Italian. And as the year progressed, that class sort of shifted as well, because different people are moving faster and whatnot. I think it's really important to take on the challenge and immerse yourself, because I know a few people who get very far into language because they just didn't try. But I think as long as you're putting in an effort, it really is like exponential once you start trying. So
Yeah, and I totally agree with that point. Just the language aspect, the biggest obstacle for most people is the confidence speaking it. Honestly, that's why you got to dive in head first and just say, I might not be perfect, but it's the best way to learn, just to kind of keep speaking and mess up and try again. And I think that goes across the board, even no matter how much language you come in with, because colloquial language is different. Sometimes you'll talk to someone younger and all of a sudden here's slang that you've never heard before. And, just take your mistakes with stride and move past it. And eventually, you just really start to pick up on all the little things. And it's honestly crazy how quickly you start to learn the languages and pick these little things up. So this is going to be our last question. How much contact did you have with your parents while you were abroad? All right, Danny, do you want to maybe talk about your communication with your parents while you were abroad?
Yes. So I have a really bad habit with not texting or calling my parents. So I didn't really have in contact a lot with my parents. But I did, just as I don't get homesick that often. But occasionally, like once a month or something around like that, we would have like a phone call or a text message or like a FaceTime or something. But yeah, I I was communicating a little bit with friends back home, but honestly not as much, just because I know that if you spend so much time and energy like contacting people from back home, it one distracts you from where you are in your SY experience, but it also makes you prone to be even more homesick, and you just kind of like are stuck with this like big FOMO energy. I will say my year was we were kind of different because I was the first SYA class post COVID. So like we still had to like wear masks all the time, and like things were kind of different. And I remember this was the year where like things were starting to like be open again. And I remember back in my high school, like I missed my junior prom, and like I missed things that like, oh my gosh, this is happening now because like the COVID restrictions are a little bit looser. And like I did feel a little bit of FOMO, but honestly helping like not communicating so much with people from back home honestly helped a lot, and I still maintain relationships. It's not like I came back and everyone forgot about me, but yeah. And also like your host family's there, you have a family here with you, so
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing. So SYA, it creates a really strong support system just inherently because your friends are often going through a lot of the same emotions that you're going through, and your teachers have seen it 10 times before you, so it's nothing new to them. And then your host families also are a great outlet for, talking about what you're going through and kind of your experience. So there's so many avenues if you do feel homesick, but also, contact with friends and family at home is really up to each student and also the parents. So if you're someone who would be super scared to send your child abroad, there's no limits on how much you can contact them. I will say it's better encourage your kid to really take the leap and trust that they'll do well. But also, they have so many support systems. They can always contact you. You're only a phone call away, a text away. So it's really up to the individual relationships, how you want to maintain that. All right, I just want to thank everyone for coming today and thank our awesome alumni for sharing their experiences and taking the time to do this. As you can see, there's an email at the bottom of the screen here. Please feel free if you have any more questions to shoot an email there, and we'll be happy to answer any more of your questions. But I hope everyone has a great rest of your evening. Thank you again.